All of a sudden, Dr. Dre is a G thing, but on his old album covers, he was a she thing. So you never know when I'm just going to throw out random 90s rap disses, huh? Anyways, all right, it is that time. The 2021 NBA Draft is finally here, Thursday, July 29th. Time of recording here is about noonish, so we still got a few hours left until the draft. I'm sure there will be other rumors and reports that come out in the hours to come. I'm sure there will be some moves, some trades that could even potentially be set forth by the time the draft actually begins tonight. But nonetheless, felt like this was a perfect opportunity, perfect time to give you my final 2021 NBA mock draft. And this time, as promised, it is a 2-round edition. 2 rounds. Including, yes, that means I'll actually talk about the Bulls and their one lonely second-round selection. You can check out all 60 of these picks for both rounds combined in the description box down below. Comment, let me know what you expect to see out of tonight's NBA draft. Let me know who you think are going to be some of the biggest winners and losers, who are some of the guys that you're high on, who are some of the guys that you're fading a little bit. Let me know all of that. Let's go ahead and talk about this, though. Now that the time is here, it feels like we're starting to get some clarity, but on the other hand, it's hard to discern between what's real and what's smoke, because you're hearing all types of different smoke. Like the stuff about, was Detroit really offered Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the number 6 pick to move up to 1 to Detroit's spot to take Cade Cunningham? Maybe, maybe not. Feels like something that, if anything, Detroit would have leaked out there to try and drive up the price to get that number 1 overall pick, so I could certainly see that being possible. But at this moment, even though you hear some reports talking about the Pistons aren't still 100% decided between Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green and Evan Mobley, I'd have to think when the night is all said and done, you would have to think that they're going to end up taking Cade Cunningham, which is a safer play. You know, they're getting Luka Light. I get it. I understand it. For Houston, the Jalen Green fit, it sure seems like everybody's come on board with now that's going to be the pick. Certainly seems like that's going to be the way they go. And, you know, when you get the opportunity to grab a guy with 30-point-per-game scoring potential, you have to grab them. Houston needs that type of dude, and Jalen Green can be that type of dude for them. And you're going to be a bad team anyway, so why not take your time, let this young man develop and see what he can be, potentially be your next franchise player. For the Cavs at 3, you know, who knows what could happen. Maybe they can coax Golden State into giving up 7 and 14 and something else to move up to 3. So that way maybe Golden State could take a Jalen Suggs. But I'm not trying to factor in any other trades that aren't already accounted for. So at this point, got the Cavs staying at 3 with Evan Mobley. I don't know that I 1,000% buy that he and Jared Allen can play in the same front court. Athletically, profile-wise, you might think Mobley can, but you know, then you're talking about, okay, if he and Jared Allen play in the same front court and Allen's the 5, that means Mobley's the 4. I think there's less value there with Mobley as a 4 as opposed to a 5. Am I wrong here? So, I don't know. Mobley's a high upside guy. It's going to take time to see it, but his upside certainly is tantalating, but absolutely should not be one of the top 2 picks in this draft just based off of the way the modern NBA game goes. And then at 4, kind of the first surprise, and you know, you've probably seen some reports about this recently, and I've went back and forth a little bit on this myself, even though I've consistently mocked Jalen Suggs to Toronto at 4. The Scottie Barnes to Toronto at 4 talk seems viable, seems real, and they have to make a decision. Is it Barnes or is it Suggs? And you're bound to get some surprises in the draft. I'm going to go with this one. You know, Barnes kind of following that Patrick Williams track from a year ago, be the guy from Florida State, the big athlete that could defend multiple positions, and all of a sudden you find yourself being taken 4th overall, which surprises some people. I think the Scottie Barnes pick at 4 would be less surprising than Patrick Williams at 4. That was a surprise and felt like a bit of a reach last year. Whereas with Scottie Barnes, you've already had a lot of people talking about top 7 and then top 6 and then top 5 going over Kuminga. Like, we've had time to reset, and it doesn't feel like that much of a deal. Now, if Orlando's able to sit there and get Jalen Suggs at 5, that's got to be a tremendous coup. Now, some Magic fans might sit there and say, well, what about Fultz? What about Cole Anthony? What the hell about him? Your team stinks. You need to get the best possible talent you can, and you figure out the rest of the crap later. Are you really going to pass on a Jalen Suggs because you have confidence and belief in Markelle Fultz being an all-star? Are we really going there? A Cole Anthony, a mid-first round pick last year, who didn't shoot the ball incredibly well? Like, Is that really what we're going with here? No. If Suggs is there, Orlando's got to be doing backflips because they feel like they potentially got a franchise player. A lot of the reports seem to be that James Bouknight would go 6 to Oklahoma City. I like his ability to score off the dribble. I think, him playing next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Lou Dort, it's not a bad trio there on the perimeter. So now once you get past those top 5, it could be Bouknight, it could be any number of guys. I certainly would be intrigued for Oklahoma City thinking about a guy like a Josh Giddey, but Bouknight I do think makes a lot of sense. Number 7 with Golden State. We'll see what happens with Golden State, in terms of pick 7 and 14. Are they going to keep both of them? Are they going to trade one of them? Are they going to trade both of them and move up? Are they going to trade both of them and get a more established player? Time will tell. But for the moment, there's been some differing thoughts here of whether it might be Franz Wagner from Michigan going here, whether it be Davion Mitchell going here, although you're starting to see that his stock is going more towards late lottery to just outside of the lottery. Going to be, I'm sure, some debate there about Kuminga and whether or not he fits. I think it's an interesting decision for the Warriors. Do you go with the guy with the higher upside, or do you go with the guy that could possibly provide you a little bit more contribution right now? And which one is that at the moment? For the second part, I think it's Giddey. Long term, it might also be Giddey, but Kuminga might have more pure upside. But for Golden State at 7, I have a feeling that if they drafted Giddey and they were trying to package him in with somebody else, somebody else would want him more than they would want a Kuminga, which puts Orlando in a great spot. Sitting there, if you come out of this draft with Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Kuminga, you got to feel really, really good about the way things fell, even though initially, if you're a Magic fan, you're not that happy. Yeah, sure, the Bulls didn't sneak into the top 3, so you got the pick at 8, but you certainly didn't expect to end up with the 5th overall pick as your top pick, but that's where you were at. But to be able to get Jalen Suggs and to be able to get Kuminga, 2 guys that were both mocked to be top 5 guys, one of them a top 4 guy, the other one a top 5 to 6 guy, and you get one at 5 and the other one at 8, you'd have to feel really, really good about that. Sacramento, admittedly, I bounced back and forth a little bit in my mind between, frankly, any of the guys between 9 and 12. Wagner, Moody, Kai Jones, Sengun. I went back and forth because I could make a case for all of them, especially for Jones and Sengun, just kind of based off of the roster needs of the Kings. But if you're going with the kind of best player available mindset, or you're going with, hey, analytics tell us to take Tyrese Halliburton last year, we do, and he has a tremendous rookie season, if the analytics are pointing you towards Wagner, then you take him. That's who you take. And we've heard, have there been promises, blah, 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 blah. I think this is kind of the floor of where Wagner's going to go. We'll see whether he ends up going 7 or 8 or ends up at number 9. Memphis made the move from 17 to 10 as part of that package involving Adams and Valanciunas. Moses Moody would be a good fit for them. Another guy you could play alongside John Morant and Dylan Brooks. I could give you some more scoring punch, more two-way versatility on the outside next to your franchise player in Ja. Wouldn't be bad work for Memphis to be able to come out of this and say, yeah, we added Steven Adams, and by the way, we added a guy like Moses Moody who has pretty good upside. Charlotte, I have no clue what the hell they're going to do. This pick could be Kai Jones, it could be Sengun, it could be Davion Mitchell. Who the hell knows? It could be Duarte. I don't know. I just don't. But Charlotte really needs some size and athleticism in the front court. And Kai Jones, his talents are tantalizing. His upside is apparent, but his flaws are numerous, and you can see them. And, would make me have some pause about wanting to take him in the lottery, but could certainly see that happening, but could also see him dropping into the 20s. That's how big I think his draft range is going to be. I envision him being one of those guys like Kuminga and some of these other guys, pretty polarizing prospects. Sengun at 12, I think makes sense for San Antonio if they like him. Davion Mitchell at 13 to Indiana. If they're thinking that they're a win-now team and they don't end up trading this pick or moving back for somebody like Houston's, couple of later first-round picks, the Knicks, couple of first-round picks at 19 and 21. Mitchell makes some sense because if you're trying to win now, this is a guy that can come in and contribute right away. Secondary facilitator, an elite perimeter defender from day one. You could do a lot worse than him. Where it gets interesting is you'll see guys like Chris Duarte and Trey Murphy III have moved up to 14 at Golden State and 15 at Washington, respectively. Like, this type of stuff happens sometimes, like, as you get close to the draft. You know, teams start to value some of these 3-and-D guys or these guys that can shoot. Now, would I have a little trepidation about taking Duarte at 14 at 24 years of age? Yes. If Golden State is taking him, though, I think it's a little different because you're thinking about the window to contend, the window to compete, the window to do things now. Like, he makes a lot of sense for them at the tail end of the lottery. For Trey Murphy III, you know, you bring him into the fold. He's a guy that can play the 2. He's a guy that can play the 3. He can defend any position from the 1 to the 3, and maybe in some cases in smaller lineups defend the 4. And he can really shoot. So right here, middle of the first round, get you another shooter to help space the floor. Feels like a pretty good call. But as you look through this mock, like, some notable names drop a little bit. Jalen Johnson, you know, there's certainly some concerns about his performance at Duke and just how with it he was. Like, what's he like in terms of his mindset towards the game? You know, how much can you rely on him? But there is no question that if he gets to the 20s, you must absolutely take a swing at the fences for him. In Houston, at 23, if Jalen Johnson were to fall there, and I'm not saying he's going to, but you've got to be tantalized by the upside and say, we are willing to risk it for the biscuit because Jalen Green could be our franchise player. Jalen Johnson is a guy you could argue from a pure physical talent standpoint is a top 7 to 10 guy in this draft. To be able to get him in the 20s, that's pretty damn good value right there. This is a good draft, like I've mentioned before. Great in points, great in combo guards, great in 3-and-D wing defenders. Not as great in terms of the 4 and the 5, the more traditional big man positions. They get some stretch 4s there, but when you look at the Bulls and who I ended up having them take, you know, I was hoping the way it was going to fall out in the mock that Robinson Earl would be there at 38. You know, seen some comparisons to Draymond Green, and I think they're appropriate comparisons. Similar type of athletic package, similar type of player and skills coming out of college. I could certainly see that and think he would be a good fit in Chicago next to a Patrick Williams and a Vucevic in the front court. As you got some interchangeability there between him and Williams at the 3 and 4, and depending on the lineup, you could line up Pat at the 4, and you could play Robinson Earl at the 3, or vice versa. So I like that. But for the Bulls at 38, Jason Preston, the point guard for Ohio. Like, if you're not familiar with the story, go check it out. A great story of kind of like determination, self-belief, perseverance, overcoming odds, believing in yourself beyond anything else. And now you're at a point where you could be drafted in the second round. Like, he's kind of herky-jerky and kind of unorthodox. His shot is ugly. I'll just throw it out there. He doesn't wow you with great quickness. He doesn't wow you with great athleticism. He's not an explosive leaper, nothing like that. But he's just a really damn good basketball player. And you look at the performance against Dosunmu in Illinois early in this past season where he put up, I think it was like 31 points. Like, he got that 31 points with relative ease. You know, and for the Bulls sitting there at pick 38, you know, who knows what they do in the offseason in terms of getting a point guard or not. But I like the thought of bringing in a guy like a Preston and filling some type of like Tyrese Halliburton light type of role for this team. Can play multiple positions, can do multiple things offensively, brings you some ability to facilitate, defend, rebound, shoot, put the ball in the hoop. Like, if the Bulls ended up with Preston at 38, I'd feel pretty good about that. Now, I don't know if this is the type of talent that AK and Eversley would be targeting at 38, but certainly wouldn't complain if they did. But anyways, you could check out, again, the 2-round mock. It's my final edition. In the description box below. Let me know what you think. We'll see what happens tonight. We'll see how close I am on these guys, how many I get right, how way off I might be on some of them. Buckle up. It should be a fun night, though, and hopefully we get 1 or 2 really big-time deals go down, although I'm not sure that we will. But if we do, man, it'll make draft night really, really interesting.